Hello, Internet. I have a programming thing to talk about again this time instead of, I don't know, philosophy, whatever that last video was. Based on a thing that came up at work, which is probably how a lot of these videos are going to end up, right? A thing comes up, and they're all going to be programming things, right? Because I program for work, but I also program for fun, right? So it could be projects for fun or other people I talk to who are also programmers, as happened a couple videos ago. But this one was about a thing called Yoda code or Yoda conditions. Um, yeah. Anyway, readability of code. I think I'm really curious to know how this happens. Okay, so I think this. I only have one data point here. I should just ask more people. I learned to program when I was really little, and so I didn't learn to program in the context of like college. I was doing it for fun, and I think when it's something that's like taught to you and you learn and it's algorithms and everything's difficult and mathematicians are writing stuff, so no one is spelling out variable names and stuff for whatever, I don't know, because math, I guess you can only have one letter in your variable names. I feel like programming kind of gets this like people think it's supposed to be hard, and it's good that it's hard almost. I don't know, you create this, yeah, I don't know. It's this weird atmosphere of, and this can happen with anything that's an expert field, right? There's a little bit of gatekeeping that happens. I think just happens naturally because people like to feel like they figured out something hard and did something complicated, and also that they should be, it's like, look, I figured this out. I'm a smart person, right? I think anyone can learn to code. I think it's like learning to play piano, which I can't do to save my life, drawing, which I can't do. I know that I could if I sat down and spent hours, but I haven't sat down and spent those hours. Programming is 100% the same, and I find it to be a very creative thing as well, which is something I have difficulty convincing non-programmers of. Like, everyone just thinks like math, logic. That's the medium, like in the same way that paints, but it's about what you make, right? No one's going, oh man, painting, it's all about those paints. How difficult are all those paints? I don't want to do paints. It's like, whatever. We're not here for the paints. We're here for the picture that was made. I don't know. That's how I feel about code. Yes, we're coding, but what am I coding? I'm making a game or a website or both. If the website is a game, in the case of like Poppy Seed Pets. But anyway, my guess, and I'd just be curious to talk to more people, or if you have a feeling on this, I guess that because I learned to program for fun as a kid, I didn't end up like thinking that code should be like this difficult to read, difficult to parse thing. And I remember when this came up and I was thinking about this video, I was like, oh, I remember in high school a guy like complimented me on my nice looking code, which was interesting. That had never happened before. I hadn't done a whole lot of programming with other people before then. There was one other guy from a previous high school, lots of moving. But yeah, I don't know. So that just stood out to me. I thought that was interesting. And I definitely feel like I see a lot of code people write that just looks very difficult to read. So anyway, thing one, I'm curious, how is it because of learning, when we learn something like in a learning environment, does that somehow make people overcomplicate things? I don't know. There is a wonderful book I read, and I don't have the book, unfortunately. I buy so few physical books these days, but I do have an artist's rendition. It's called The Art of Readable Code. I recommend this book. It's an O'Reilly book, as you can see on the artist's rendition. I'm very good at drawing, as we established. Yeah, great book. It covers, I don't know, so many topics. It's about like comments you probably know from code. I have some examples of comments. Unfortunately, I don't have some code to show you, but I do have an artist's rendition, but we'll get to that. Comments, naming things, right? Again, you don't have to just use one name in your variable. Why would you do that? They're like some kind of programming understood conventions, like I for an index when we do loops. It's always I for index. Why index? I don't know, but if you find any code, and I wouldn't tell anyone, well, you better spell it out. Like, it's fine. For loops, we use I in the same way that, in math we use x a lot of times, like just x, let x is just something. It's, I don't know, for whatever reason, right? Where do these conventions come from? Who can say? after blasting math for having one-letter variable names. But there is this funny thing that's like, I don't remember, I'd have to reread the book. I don't think they talked about this, but it's a thing that came up at work, and it's called Yoda conditionals or Yoda conditions, I forget. But they're called that because it's put backwards. And here's where my artist rendition of code comes into play. So here's, I can look at the camera. Wonderful. So here's what an English speaker would say: if health is less than or equal to 0, and this is code, right? And obviously there's parentheses, and why is the less than or equal to characters? Well, it's because we don't have a less than or equal. You might be used to where you underline the thing, but we don't have that key on our keyboard, so programmers type 2 things instead. Oh well. And that's fairly natural to say, right? If health is less than or equal to 0, but you probably already read ahead. Here's what some people say you should do in programming, and there are reasons, and we'll talk about this. Here it is. If 0 is greater than or equal to health, it's like the least natural thing to say. Yoda is famous for being difficult to understand. Why would you put this in your code? That's not easy to understand. It's not readable. And there is a reason. So there's a historical reason. And the reason is, and I better pick that code back up off the floor, you could accidentally, maybe you make a mistake and you left out the less than sign, and now you just said if health and a single equals 0. In a lot of languages, and they shouldn't let you do this, but they do, would say, oh, then you want to assign in this context, even though we've said if. So we're clearly checking to see whether or not something is true or not. It says, well, you're doing an assignment because you just said an equal sign. So we're going to set health to equal 0. And then, yeah, that worked. Or actually, in this case, I think it would just say, no, that's 0 is false. What would happen? Depends on the language. A strongly typed language like C# would say, I don't know what the hell you're doing. But again, some languages would let you write this. I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too. Let's not do that. I'll just have the cake only. If 0 is greater, if you accidentally leave out that greater than, you can't say 0 equals health. You can't assign health to 0, right? You can't change the value of 0. 0 is what it is. And so that's why people say this is nice, because it might protect you from that kind of mistake. Again, and I don't want to say most languages, but many languages will do this. There's also plenty of other, like, you're going to catch that kind of mistake. There's no reason for this, and people are coming around to this. You don't need to get Yoda out of your programming. Again, he's known for being hard to understand, and you want code that's really easy to understand, which I've said with no evidence. Why did someone make a book called The Art of Readable Code? It's very important because you're working with other people a lot of the time. And even if you're not working with other people, oops, you are, because yourself in 6 months is other people. I think that's a concept from other domains that people are familiar with, right? Like you 6 months ago, you don't know what you did, you don't know what you wrote, you don't know what you were thinking. And when you go back and try to pick up anything, a game, just pick up like a role-playing game. You pick up Skyrim and it's been 6 months, you're not going to know where. You probably just want to reset. I don't know. Same with like games like Civilization, but anything, writing, and code is writing, right? So you want it to make it as easy as possible to pick back up again for the future. And if you actually work with other people who are actually different people, I don't know how to make that. You know what I mean? Make the code easy to read and understand. Don't make them be like 0 is greater than or equal to health. What does that mean? 0 is like it's backwards, right? It requires that extra thinking. It's like putting in a double negative or something else like that you would hopefully avoid in your code as well. Make the things easy to understand. So anyway, for whatever reason, Yoda code, I keep calling Yoda code, Yoda conditionals persist to this day, and I would say murder them. Get rid of it. There's no value. Again, lots of languages won't even let you do that accidental mistake thing. Some will, especially the loosely typed ones. Didn't I already rant about how loosely typed languages aren't that great? So anyway, that's the little thing I wanted to say. I hope you enjoyed my artist's renditions. I also have an artist rendition of Not Yoda. I thought about working it into the video. Now I guess I did. Thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.